uh, broadcast. Broadcast, not radio. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on Twitter. It's going to be on YouTube. Did you hear me?
Yeah, is it going to be on our Facebook?
No, I'm not posting it now. I'll catch it later, but it's going to be on her post, her YouTube, her Facebook, her. Look up Build Your Best Life. Okay, you're going to have to be quieter.
Good morning and welcome to Build Your Best Life with Deborah G. Smith. My platform is designed to assist high school age and young adult males as they follow my basic principles to overcome obstacles from their personal lives and society to build their best lives. I believe it is better to train early rather than fix later. Good morning again and welcome to my pastor's chat this morning. I am excited to have a very special guest with me this morning. I'm going to introduce him right now. I have Dr. Mario Ramos. He has been in the ministry for 30 years doing radio, TV, pastoring, and evangelizing. For the last 19 years, he has been pastoring Build a Foundation Ministries. 3 years ago, he was given the Doctor of Divinity from the New Testament Bible Church Biblical Institute, recommended by the president and the board. He is the co-founder of Kingdom Covenant Fellowship, where he and his partners are working to bring pastors together for encouragement and edification. He is currently hosting a radio broadcast, Living in a World of Wisdom, on kbafradio.com and KBAF Radio Facebook page, ministering the principles of the Proverbs while simulcasting on WOTGTV.com, West Channel, live during the radio program. He and his wife, Denise, have been married 19 years. What a blessing. Both serving as pastors and evangelists ordained under Jesse Duplantis ministry. They also support both financially and prayerfully Ricardo Miller Children's Ministry, Jesse Duplantis Ministry, and other evangelistic ministries. Living in a World of Wisdom. That is fantastic. Good morning, Dr. Ramos, and thank you so much for joining us here on Build Your Best Life this morning.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be with you, Dr. Smith. Is great, and I appreciate you for inviting me and getting to know your audience and the work that you do. And such a blessing. Thank you so much.
Great. Now I know I just read your bio, but how about you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been in the ministry 30 years, and it's kind of amazing when you sit back and think. Uh, the Lord spoke to me when I first started that He was going to take me to TV and radio, and I kept thinking, TV and radio. I don't have that kind of money. We all say that, and so I thought, oh, geez, and so um, I just, I said, okay, we'll do that. We're going to do all these things all over the world and all these things. And I kept thinking, me, nobody knows me, but God, God is unique in himself. And when he wants to get something done, he uses, like he says, he uses the silly thing to confuse the wise. And I didn't quite understand that in the beginning, but as I walked in this, I've had that calling. I've heard God all my life, and we had communications and spent times talking to him and kept always asking, why you keep talking to me for? You got so many other people that want to do this. And, I was so far away from, I grew up in the Catholic Church, so I really didn't really know that much about Jesus. We knew about can't even think of what they call him now because I've been so far away from it. From the Pope, there we go. And so that was the thing that we always looked at was the Pope, and so, but anyway, we never read the Bible, but he'd always keep talking to me, and like I said, oh, Jesus, I'm a mess too. I was a mess. But one day I just said, okay, I'm tired of being a mess. So show me how this thing works. So I said yes, accepted Jesus Christ when I was 19, and I did it through through what was it called, Businessmen Association, uh, and I so I was involved with the businessmen, and so I had all these mentors that helped me to how to have church and business working together. So I was very blessed in that aspect because going into television and radio, you have to learn both. You have to be business and you have to be ministry, and usually not taught to you in school. And so when I did, it really, really blessed me because I could draw from all these different men and their wisdom to better myself. And so, like I said, God uses some silly things to get you where he needs to be. And so me and my brother-in-law at the time, we couldn't get along. We couldn't be in the room 5 minutes. And we were at each other's necks, let me tell you, folks. And God used this young man to take us into television. I said, no, man, listen, me and you don't get along. And he said, no. I've been talking to my boss about you. And my boss said, if you want to do a show, you can come do a show here at the television station. And I said, well, I got to talk to your boss first before I do anything. So we set up the meeting. And I went in there and talked to him, and he said, yeah, no problem, man. He said, he's been telling me all these good things about your ministry. And where I started was in a nursing home. Okay. So I went and ministered every Saturday in a nursing home and ministering to the elderly. Yeah. Now, if you ever, and it's the greatest training place you could ever go. Okay. Mm-hmm. They just love you. It doesn't matter how good you are, how terrible you are. They just love you because you show up every week.
Right.
Okay. Now, I was young. I was, I've never been in the pulpit. And then so when God said, here's where you're going to start, I said, okay. So I started in a nursing home. So every week I was faithful. I was faithful for 8 years, showed up every Saturday, every morning, preached the gospel, got trained. But here's the cute part, is that I got used to speaking to them even when they were asleep. And so you're sitting about standing in an audience and you watch everybody in the audience, are they paying attention? Well, God says, yes, they're paying attention, but not the way you think they're paying attention. Mm-hmm. See, their spirit man is paying attention because it's hearing the word of God. So it was the greatest training that I ever had in my entire life, how to minister to the spirit man and not to the flesh. So that was part of the uniqueness in the training. And then so when we came to the television, and I met his boss said, sure, man, you can do anything you want in here. I said, really? And he said, yep, just come in here, set up your stage, do whatever you want. He said, the only thing I'm going to ask of you is not to operate the control room. It's just too much expense, if something goes wrong. And we broadcast every day. We do our shows here for the network and all the different things. And I said, no problem. So here comes the big question. How much is it going to cost me? And I'm sitting back thinking, well, television's not cheap. It can cost you millions of dollars. It can cost you $20 an hour. It can cost you, I'm thinking all these big numbers. He said, it ain't going to cost you anything. I said, do what? It's not going to cost me anything? He said, no, it's not going to cost you a dime. He said, you can come in here every Sunday for 5 hours.
Wow.
I said, what? 5 hours? I said, what am I going to do in a studio for 5 hours? Now, I don't know the business. So he said, here, get you some people to come in and we'll show them how to use the cameras. And your brother-in-law will do the production in the studio. And I said, okay, fine. So that's how we got started. 5 hours sitting in the studio with no money, okay? When by serving God and his elderly,
right,
faithfully, God promotes you.
Right.
I got started in the television business. So all the producers, everybody that was there, they go, we just like you. We just something about you we just love. And anything you need from us to help you succeed what you're doing, we're here to help you. So God brought the mentors in to help me learn the business. So we were in that studio we were there for 3 years doing these broadcasts and doing a 30-minute show. So it was amazing to watch how God works when you take care of his business first.
Right.
And so that's how I got started. Now, one of the things was that God said, don't ask for money. Well, when we were there, because it also was on the nonprofit side, you couldn't ask for money. Mm. And I thought, okay, how are you going to do this without, because everybody's asking for money. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus, how are you going to do this? He said, I told you I'd take care of it. So all this time, we never asked for money. We just do the project. We do that. So the ministry just kept growing from there. We were one of the first ministries that actually went into the women's prisons and did filming in death row and met some, and it was probably various parts of one of my experiences, because when you walk into prison, I've never been in jail or in prison, and you hear that clink, 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 and then the door shuts. And they take all your information, your driver's license away. You walk in there, anything go wrong, and
Yes.
You're thinking in the back of your head, oh no, they got all my information up there in the front, So, but anyway, and what we found out also in there, Dr. Smith, was there were generations after generations of prisons. We had one lady that we interviewed. She had 4 daughters in the same prison. Mm. And so it was an eye-opener on how the generations just, followed after followed.
Right.
So, but that's how we got started. And then after 3 years, AT&T bought the television station. Well, then the politics come in. And that's when they told us we'd have to move. Mm. And I'm sitting here thinking, God, I don't have any money. How am I going to move to go do productions when I've been in here all this time. And so the station manager, he, when he called me, he said, man, I got some really bad news to tell you, but I'm going to help you do whatever you can, And I'm thinking, okay, God, got no money. And I don't know what it's going to cost from here, I literally went and cried before God. I said, okay, you got this thing going for 3 years and we're impacting people,
All right.
I'm thinking, oh, Jesus. So 20 minutes later, he calls me back and he says, hey, listen, I got a television station in Dallas that you can do your broadcast at. Now, it's going to cost you. And I said, okay. He said, do you know its cost? No. He said, it's called Dallas Public Television. So it was the public television funded by the city of Dallas, but there was a cost. Mm-hmm. So we went over there to meet them, and they said, oh yeah, he called us up and we just raved about you and all that stuff. And so they showed us around their studio. They had 4 different studio bays and editing bays and all the different things that I had not learned. And so they said, but before you can do any production, you got to take all these classes and get certified on the equipment before you can do any productions. So they laid out everything, what it cost, and every member had to take whatever they were going to do. So we happened to have a businessman on the crew. And so he looked at me and he says, whatever it cost, I'll write a check.
Ooh.
So
wow.
Thank you, Jesus. So I learned it all from there. I took every class. I took editing, producing, remote, you name it, I took it. And that's how I learned the business. And it was all God put me in that position. So I learned it. We were there 5 years. And but see, here's the mistake where I made. See, that's what I said. I was young, and you get into the fame, you get into the notoriety of all. I got blessed by meeting all these ministers and all these productions, was on TBN, you name it. Some of our product, the Dallas Film Festival, were Hollywood and all these different, the big, media moguls and all that. So if you're not grounded, guess what happens? So I left God a long time ago in that aspect, and because this thing was just going. And so God spoke to me and he said, you left me a long time ago. I said, yes, I sure did. And I knew it too, okay? And God says, I need you to go back home and let's start this thing over. I said, go home. What am I going to do after all these years? He said, shut it down. You left me a long time ago. So I looked at myself and I said, do what? Go home? When God tells you to go home, what are you going to do? I said, I reasoned with him. I argued with him. He said, no, you're done. I said, it's time to go home because you left me. So I come in one day and talked to all the guys and the ladies and said, we're going to shut it down in 3 months. And they're all looking at me. What do you mean shut this thing down? I said, yeah, we're shutting it down. I'm going home. I said, y'all are doing fine. You got enough people doing side jobs and all that stuff. Y'all are going to be just fine. So I did. I shut it down in 3 months, went home, and got to know Jesus again. So that's kind of where my life started to turn. And that was 25 years ago when it really turned. Well, not 25. It was actually more like 20 years ago when my relationship with God really turned. Because I went back to get united with my first love. And that's when things changed in my life. That's when he revealed to me, which I teach now and been teaching for the last 20 years, is the principles of the Proverbs. learning how to work the principles so that you can be successful, and you'll be rooted in a foundation that is sound. So that's where we arrived to. And so I tell you that little bit in the beginning is to let you know, folks, that you're going to have ups and downs, you're going to have failures, you're going to have highs and lows, but make sure you stay focused on Jesus. And that's one of the things that's not taught in the church. And so, but I'm gonna stop there and let you go to your next question, because I know that probably
All right, thank you so much for that. That goes all, to show what happens when we are faithful, and also when we take our eyes off of where it needs to be, which is on Jesus, and let it, go elsewhere. But then we have to come back around, get ourselves back focused on Him, and it'll be all right. So thank you for that. Well, I'll get into our questions. Now, Build Your Best Life focuses on ensuring young men have an opportunity to overcome chains that bound them. And when I talk about chains, I'm talking about, all these obstacles they have against them, preventing their ability to have successful lives. In your opinion, what are 3 significant obstacles that young men are facing today?
Well, as I was thinking about that question, one of the ones that come to the top was their peers. And people that you associate with. God tells you, know who you labor amongst. And so that's one there. And number 2 is finances and money. We put such an emphasis on money as a measure of our success. And so that can draw you away from your principles. And then third, as I looked at that, was we're seeing such a draw on social media that's just is becoming the new television. Remember, we've grown up, everybody said, go watch TV, that sometimes that became the babysitter. Go watch the TV.
All right.
Now the social media network is actually becoming the second. If you're married, it becomes the second bride. If you're single, it takes you away from your peers. So it's got some pluses and negatives. So you have to learn how to balance them. So those are some of the 3 obstacles that I see today that really are getting in the way of a young man's road to success. I think, and let me add this. I think one of the biggest issues is that we don't have the fathers in their lives and mentors anymore. Without fathers and mentors, this is why we're seeing a society the way it is today.
Mm-hmm. Right. I totally agree with that. That's one of the things I've been talking about. And as I changed the format of the platform this year, is to have, the pastors, educators, and parents come on and speak to our young men, because they don't have a lot of them don't have the father figures in their lives, and then they don't have those mentors. So, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it,
Right.
So you need someone speaking into their lives. So I think that, that's key, having those in. And I want to pause right here. I apologize, but say good morning to those that have tuned in. Good morning to Peggy and Patricia, Tamika, Dan, and I'm sure Denise is watching. So good morning to all of you. Thank you for tuning in this morning. My special guest, Dr. Mario Ramos, and he has so far given us some great information. So thank y'all for tuning in. But Dr. Ramos, to get back on that social media, with our young people, the millennials, as well as Generation Z, our younger ones,
Yeah.
they are so tech savvy. A lot of things I see them doing with social media is so negative, but I'm thinking y'all are so smart. Y'all can take what y'all know in social media and, come entrepreneurs, do something
Yeah.
positive with this thing, but y'all are taking it and, bullying people on social media and telling your personal business on social media. How do you think that they can better manage that?
Well, that comes where and I'm going to say it this way, is the failure of the church and at the home also too. Remember, bullying's always been around.
Right.
That's just part of life. Is somebody's always gonna pick on you. It's always gonna, so we can't use that as a crutch. But the thing is we've gotten so far away from the principles of life, and we got to get back to the principles. We got to get back to those structures, and that's where the church has to come in. But the social media has become the place for these young people to express themselves, and everybody's accepted that, unfortunately, and not realizing the damage it's doing to other people because they don't personally see the effect of it. So social media has become a tool of destruction instead of a tool of building up if it's not used properly. If we use it properly, then yes, we have the opportunity to help and enhance people, because society has changed tremendously. And one of the things also with this pandemic is it has changed our society completely, because now the churches are closed, so they've gone to social media for their religion and for their relationships. And there's so many different voices out there, which creates a problem. And that's part of the social media that's actually hurting, because the parents haven't educated themselves to keep an eye on what the children are doing. Because so many parents, it goes back to that television theory. Oh, just let them on their social media, that they're getting occupied. But if you're not paying attention to what they're seeing and hearing, because you're not watching, you're heading down a road of destruction. And so we have to monitor them, and you have to make the time to check to see where they're traveling, because if not, they're going to get information that's now in your home. So it's important to know what information's coming in.
Right. Yeah. Pastor Ricardo was on the end of January, and he threw out this term that I've been using, and it was just so profound to me. But he said, a growing child needs a growing parent. So,
Yeah,
this lines up with what you just said. If they're not
yeah,
keeping up, then that's where you get the split.
exactly. And that's one of the things that the church tells you. Just like in Proverbs 22, it tells you, I gave you 30 sayings of knowledge and counsel to give back a sound answer to the one who sent you.
All right.
It's not so much what we say to our children, it's what they see you do. Okay, speaks louder than what you say.
Right.
Naturally, they see you lying to them every day. Now, people say, well, I don't lie to my children. Yes, you do. You say one thing and then you do something else. So you don't think about it as a lie, but it truly is, and they're watching you.
Right.
So your words aren't sound over here, and then you turn around and do this. They're looking at this and saying, wait a minute. You're telling me one thing, but you're doing something else. And then truth, not truth. So that's why we have to get back to those principles, so
Right.
that learn the soundness of the word, and this word is coming out of your mouth every day. Because it's when they see this every day, then it becomes truth.
All right.
So if they see you in the Bible every day, reading the Bible every day, then it becomes truth to them. So if you stop and don't do it for a week, it becomes a lie.
Yep.
So you only show it when you need it. And once it's good, then you leave it. It becomes a lie to them. See?
All right.
So that's why we see such a difficult time for young people to realize that God is a very important part of our lives. That it's just not going to church, it's a relationship. And that relationship is not being seen. Goes back to the deal as we said, where are the mothers and the fathers?
Yeah.
You say. So
Right.
the mom and dad has to be involved. You know.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Thank you. Now, many of our young men, going back to the church, grew up in the church. However, we don't see them now. Do you think that the streets have caught them? They are attending church virtually, or they have just wandered away from God, or not God, but the church. So what do you think's going on?
Well, the biggest thing is they've gotten away from the church because it's failed them. They can't find the answers. You can find a lot of answers to questions, okay? And that's what social media has done. There's so many different answers, so many different voices out here. And the thing is that all those voices can mislead you, even though it sounds good, even though it has a big number behind them or a big crowd behind them, doesn't mean it's the truth. Because the truth comes from reading this Bible. Okay? The truth comes from understanding the principles. And those are not structured properly. We read, well, and this is how I explain this, is that the church tells you it's a New Testament church. So they don't read the Old Testament. So what does the Bible say? A house divided falls. Well, the church is divided. And so because they never understand the foundation, and they're trying to build a house on a sand instead of building it on the foundation as a wholeness, it crumbles. So that's what you're seeing in society is the way it is, because there's no soundness in it. So that's why you need your mentors, but that's why you need to pay attention to what Jesus says. He says, I only say what my Father says and only do what my Father does. So he never altered it. That's why when I said, pay attention to what you tell your children and grandchildren. See, we alter that not even knowing that, because we say one thing, do another thing, and they're looking saying, what am I trying to reason this? So we got confusion going on all the time. And so these kids are looking for soundness. And if they can't find the soundness, then they're going to look for whatever voice is the loudest. And so that's why they leave the church. Well, they got over there and they got all this kind of music and all this kind of the theater in the church and all this entertainment. We don't, they don't get the word, but they got the entertainment. See? So we have to get back to the word. And that's why the working of the principles and the working of the Proverbs keeps you in the word every day. The Bible tells you to number your days. So there's a couple places where you learn that, because he tells you that in Isaiah 30, verse 18, to encourage you. He says, encourage us with these words. The Lord still waits for you to come to him so you can he can show you his love and compassion. For the Lord is faithful, a faithful God. Blessed are those who wait for him to help them. Lord, teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Wisdom has left the church. Knowledge has left the church. And so for wisdom and knowledge to come back, it comes back through the principles of reading your Proverbs, because it teaches you how to number your days. The Proverbs look like a calendar. If you ever pay attention to it, it looks just like a calendar. You've been following a calendar all your life, but you've been following it through the world's eyes. So if you learn how to follow the calendar through God's eyes, then you know how to number your days. So it teaches you every day what to say to him, how to communicate with him, but then it also teaches you how to fix your problems for that day. And also helps you to learn to be still. And that's the problem we have in the church. It's not still, because it's moving. So you see people come and go. Why? Because there's no soundness in it. And they say, where's it? It's not working for me. What you're telling me is not working for me, because they got away from the principles. So if you want a society to change, it has to go back to those principles. And so what does everybody tell you, doctor? Well, Jesus says the same thing over and over and over. What are the children? Mom, you tell me the same thing over. No, Mom, you don't tell me the same thing over and over. Depending on what mood you're in, you tell me something different, but it's not the same. See? So if we want our young people to grow up and be strong, then we have to learn to be the same. And so over 19 years, I've been working these principles and teaching them every day on the broadcast. So if you want soundness in your life, you learn the principles. And that's why God tells you to embrace his chosen children. A descendant of a Jew I am. So when God, I kept thinking, why you talk to me all the time? Well, I understand why now. But he says, learn your principles. And they've always kept the principles. They never altered. Right. So up a child in the ways of the Lord, as it says in Proverbs 22, they'll not depart when they get old. And what does the church tell you? Now here comes it. Words are powerful. The church says, well, my child left. What have they seen you do? Times did you leave the church? You went back to the church when you got in trouble. What are you teaching your children? Say, this is why we need mentors. And I'm just saying mentors as just the general, ladies and men, women, mothers and fathers, which is the government has destroyed the relationship of the mother and the father, because the government became the source, and the man says, well, the government will take care of my family, I'm leaving. See? So right. If you give them an out, they're not going to, what? So what do the children have, what have they learned? Well, the church is no different. The church, who's in the church? The women. Where's the men? You only see a pastor because he's getting paid. Okay. So we have a society that shows failure, but the children are looking for the truth. So if we get back to the truth of teaching them to work the principles, they won't leave the principles, because the principles will teach them how to be successful. Everything has principles. Science has principles. Math has principles. Finances have principles. And if you work them, you become successful. So, but the first principle is you learn to number your days and you work the word every day. It takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes every morning. If you work it every morning, 5 minutes, I guarantee you that you'll never leave it, because it'll teach you. It'll bring back wisdom. It'll bring back knowledge, so that you can go through to the other side. Okay. I got one more thing to say to this part, is that when Jesus told you don't worry about yesterday or tomorrow, what he was saying is learn to be still in today, so that you can see him operate in your life. If you're always thinking about tomorrow, you're going to miss him. If you're always thinking about the past, you're going to miss him. But if you learn to stay in today, you'll find him. You'll find him.
Oh.
Because you'll listen to him. See, because this is him talking. Even though it's your lips, even though it's your breath, it's him talking. So while you're speaking it out, you see, out of your mouth, it is going out into the atmosphere and changing your situation. And if you learn to wait upon him, you see, because every time you speak this word out, all those things that God has for you will come to you. See, because now you become sound, now you become still, and now you work in the principle, and all that God has will come to you. See, if you learn this at a young age, that's why Proverbs 22 verses 6 says, train up a child in the ways of the Lord, they'll not depart when they get old, because it'll draw you back. You see, the word will draw you back in there.
Yes.
We as men and women have to learn to be sound with our children. And that's not been taught. And that's why we see so many families crumble today, because the soundness is gone. And the children are looking for it. So that's why he tells you, a little child, see, God is a God of second chances. If you touch the children, this is where you come in, Dr. Smith. If you touch the children, the heart of the child will bring in the parents to the church, to the kingdom of God.
All right.
So that's why when you met Ricardo, so this is why I shared it with Ricardo, do not alter your gift, because your gift will support you later down the road. You see, if you train up the children, Dr. Smith, they will always hearken to your words and your principles. When they grow up, they'll feed you. See? So when they grow up, see, McDonald's learned this a long time ago. You train up the child, and what do? They bring back their children, because it was a happy place. The same way with the church. It needs to be a happy place, but they got to learn the principles. And they'll say, you know, Dr. Smith, you've been working that principle, you brought that in. Guess what? Now I'm bringing my children. You see? Now what comes with that is that they bring their resources back to where they were fed, and then that expands yours.
All right.
And that has to be taught.
All right. Very good. Yes, it has to be taught. And I think I do agree with you, that has, come away from the whole church experience. It's come in, do this program, that program, a shout out to this person, that person. Okay, where's the basic principles? Where are the words?
Yeah.
And it is definitely missing. And thank you, Darnell Alexander and Peggy Wiggins. They have really been in there with you when you were speaking just now. They were in there with those comments. Darnell says, our words frame our world. He also said, even when man didn't leave, the government still set up programs that encourage the father to leave the home. So that was good. And Peggy is talking about that soundness, the stillness. So thank you so much for those responses. That's good.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
They're hungry. Even the parents are hungry. And so, you see, because they're looking for that soundness too. And so if we can get, and remember, this is one of the things we all have to remember, Doctor. We're all children. We forget that even in our adult side, in our adults. We're children. The church has forgot that we're his children. And the church is not listening. If the children will listen, we can change society.
Yes.
That's why these principles are so important, because it teaches you how to number your days so that you hear him every day and what he's saying for that day. That's why he tells you, Come get your daily bread.
Daily.
Daily. So that's how you become sound, is you learn to keep it. And it never changes. See? Never changes, because I don't know how old you are, but I'm 63 years old. Okay. Like I said, 20 years ago, when God came to me, he said, this is what I want you to do every day, and get back to your roots, but then go teach people how to be sound. I want to do what? So we've been broadcasting 6 years on this new network that we built. And so all around the world for 6 years now, everybody that works the principal, this sound has been going out every day around the world. We're making a big impact.
Awesome.
And here's the point. We're all in the church says, how do we get unified? How do we become one? By working the principles. You may be an hour ahead of me. Guess what you do when you wake up in the morning? The word's coming out. I got the word coming out 6 days a week. We teach it. We're off on Saturday. But we got people all around the world every day speaking the word. We're changing the world.
Yeah, that's good.
Every day, because it's his word going out of our mouths. Bringing in the children. So Dr. Smith, you're going to get busy, because the children are looking for that soundness. Okay? Mom and dad, you're going to be busy, because the children are looking for the soundness. You see? And that's what they're looking for.
Oh, soundness. All right, you heard it. You got to bring it back if you've let it go. All right. All right, Dr. Ramos, do you think the village that helped raise children decades ago is still acceptable, first of all, and utilized today? Is the village even acceptable? And is it utilized today?
Well, that word coming village, and if we really think about the word village as we grow up in townships and different things, was it acceptable? Because it's all kinds of different things in a village. So I know that word came popular, but remember, you got to know who you labor amongst. And that's why it's so important that we go back to our mentorships. Okay. Sometimes I don't want a village in my backyard.
Right.
They bring garbage in. So that word, I understand the purpose of their words, but it's not. It was never a township or a village, because there were so many different things. It was the mentors in the village that made society work.
Mm-hmm. And
that's why I used to tell all my children was, go find what makes you happy. Say, so you want to be a doctor. It's okay. You get of age to go to work. And while you're in school, in high school, go to a doctor's office and go to work. If it's a receptionist at the beginning, and find out if that's really what you like. If it's a mechanic, then go over there and go to the mechanic shop and find out. So that's the part where the village comes in if it's used properly. Which I don't really like that term, but the thing is the fact is, go find out what's in your town, because those opportunities are there for you to find out if that's really what you want to do. Now, parents who want to lead their children, you need to be a doctor or lawyer. Well, maybe they don't want to be a doctor or lawyer. You're not listening. If you listen, you got to listen, got to be sound. They may want to be, but see, now parents, you got to listen. The mechanic can own the auto shop, so he can be a businessman and an entrepreneur.
Right.
You're just looking, well, he's a mechanic. No, you missed it. See, he might be a blacksmith. Well, we don't have blacksmithing, but we do. They still have schools for those. You see, you see why you need that in the township or the village. The village doesn't succeed if we don't have all the entities in it.
All right.
Okay. And we've gotten away from that, thinking that the entity is everybody working together. That's called socialism. It doesn't work, never has. God doesn't do that. because God has uniquely designed you to be part of the community. And so you bring something to the community that's a vital link in a successful community. So we all have those things. So that soundness, they're looking for your gifts. Your gifts, from what you tell me, is children. One of your gifts. You're a grandmother. You impact your grandchildren. And this is why I said, God gives us a second chance. All the mistakes we made with our children, we get a chance to make them right with our grandchildren.
Right.
The reason is, watch, you can spend more time, and your children will say, Mom, you spend more time with the grandchildren. You do more for the grandchildren than you did for us. Why? Because the village kept telling us, go to work, get a bigger house, get a bigger car. Let's get, be in places of influence. And what did that do to our house? The little people in the house that needed us didn't have us.
Right.
But the little people called grandchildren have us because we've learned over the years to manage our finances and not so much about the big house and the big cars anymore. It's about being comfortable and enjoying our family.
Right.
We can turn that around, then the village will become what it should be, a thriving community.
Right.
So have we utilized it properly? No, but we can. It all goes back to the principles. If we use it, then yes, then we can take Dr. Smith as a mentor for young ladies and young men to be successful. Why? Because you can devote yourself. So this is where comes in now and becomes positive. Where a mom that doesn't have a husband or a single dad that doesn't have a wife, this is where we come in as grandparents to help, not to override the parents, but to help. And we got to get away from the daycare centers, because daycare centers don't have your values. But what have we done? The society and the village has said, put your children in the daycare. Let someone else raise your children, because we're a village, but you don't know their principles. See? And what do you got? That's what you got today. So we got to get back to what God had called family. And the family, you see, that's brought up in the principles. See, we help our children then. So all our grandchildren, all 21 grandchildren that we have, know this principle. Okay? So when they were growing up here, they worked it. Papa would cook breakfast. We'd sit down and then we'd read it. As they got older, we used to, I want to read, I want to read, I want to read. So we had to break it up, you see. But they got the principle.
Yeah.
So when my kids, Dad, we don't do that. No, guess who does? My grandchildren are now teaching the parents, you see, the principle. Because the heart of the child will bring the parents back to God.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Now that's the proper part of the community. And as the world calls village, if they had the proper teaching of it, then they would truly understand why you see, village is really not the proper word, but it's crossed the board and everybody feels good saying village, because it's you see, they removed your rights, and God never removed your independence.
All right.
Made you independent so that you could be a light and a shining light on the hill. But in that independence, he brought us together because we're dependent on the word. That's where the unity comes back together, is the word. That's why it's the same yesterday and never changes.
Yes.
So If we get back to it, we can change everything.
Right. Yeah. So because basically when I use the word village, as you say, I'm not talking about a town, and
Right.
we have to be so very careful who we allow in the lives of our children and grandchildren, because we have all types of people out there. They are not following the principles at all. They
Right.
don't know their lifestyles or anything like that. So no, we cannot allow our children among any and everyone, because that is not being sound parents. That is
Right.
not the purpose of it.
And let me
Yeah.
say this: just because it says Christian Daycare Center,
Mhm.
you need to know who's taking care of your children and who they're hiring.
All right.
Okay, because remember, just because you got Christian, you got to understand what's their religion. What are they following? Okay, because anything becomes a religion, and it can mislead you if you don't know the word.
All right. Yeah, that's how the cults begin.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we have some new people on here. Good morning, Agnes and Linda. Thank y'all for tuning in. I was looking for the comment I wanted to give. When you're talking about the soundness, to say your soundness is what we are looking for and what we need. That was Dan. So we got this is it? This is sage advice. So yes, we got some people that are out there and they're listening. You are really giving them some great information this morning, going back to what the word, the principles. I really like this. This is great.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. So I think we kind of talked about this. I was going to ask about the whole the influence of. Well, I ask it this way. So, what do you think has the most influence on our young men today? Is it parents? Is it social media, technology, or their peers? What is influencing them the most? Who are they
Right
listening
now, oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Go and finish.
to? I'm done.
Okay, no, I apologize. Social media is taking the place. Unfortunately, it's taken the place of the parents. It's taken the place of the fathers and the mothers, because they have and they have a ear that will listen to them, even though it's not right or wrong. I mean, I'll just say right or wrong. They have something that's listening to them. So social media has become the biggest destruction towards our children and adults, okay? Because they're looking for that 5 minutes of fame. They're looking for that 5 minutes of notoriety. And so that is our biggest issue right now, is technology. Because we as a body of believers have not in a way learned to turn it off. That's one of the things that we've learned to do. Pastor Denise and I, when we're sitting down, the phones are off or away. When we get through doing our broadcast, everything goes shut down. Okay. I answer the prayer request or acknowledge people that I'm on, then it shuts down. And because even like I tell people, you can send me a prayer request, and if it's emergency, then I will respond to you if you need it personally. But if it's not, then know I'm praying for you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not coming into to separate me from my relationship with my wife or my family. And that's one of the things that we have to learn, is to shut them down. Find that quiet time, and that quiet time is the best place And we don't have dinners together all the time either. But you need to find a place where you can communicate together. We don't come together anymore. And it needs to be around the kitchen table. Now we congregate in the kitchen, but we don't come around, you see. So we need to have a place where we can come together as a family. And technology has separated that.
All right, I agree. Before this whole COVID, excuse me, my husband and I were at dinner one evening, and he was on his phone, and he was on it, and I think he was talking on the phone.
Yeah.
And so he was on it so long, so I pulled out my iPad. I take my iPad everywhere I go. So then I pulled out my iPad and I started doing stuff on my iPad. And this lady just walked up to the table and she said, "Excuse me." She said, "But you don't need to be on that. You need to be talking with your husband." She said, "My husband's gone now. He's going to be with the Lord. And I just wish he was here so I could communicate with him." So I said, "I understand you, and you are 100% right." I said, "I don't normally do this, but he was on the phone." So I pulled out my iPad, but I said, "You are so right." But I mean, that does happen a lot of times. You don't miss people until they're gone, but you had an opportunity. We're not listening to our children. We want to say, "Okay, you need to leave home at this time. You need to do this while you're gone. You need to be home by this time. You need to go by the library and do this. You need to do that." But we never stop to listen to what they have to say. So if we get back to having maybe that dinner together or whatever time we have in the evening, let's put all the iPads and the phones away, turn off the TV. Let's just talk.
Yeah.
How was your day?
Yeah.
Is there anything you need from me? Whatever. But I'm guilty of it too. So, we're not doing that. And it's, I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. Instead of, it's not even trying to turn toward getting better.
Right. It's like my grandchildren, there's no off limits on topic. Okay. Whatever you want to say, you say it. Okay. And they'll look and so, Papa, they don't even be talking about sex. Yes, we do. We know what goes on out there.
Right.
If you can't communicate with us, then you're going to go get your information from someone else that's not proper.
Right.
You see? So if you got a problem, come talk to me. If it's whatever it is, because I want you to get the information that you can trust. See? That's why we have to learn to listen, especially our college children, young adults, because they're hearing so many things. So the table needs to be a place. What do you got to say? If your daughter comes in and says, "Listen, this guy's trying to have sex with me," so I'll go deal with it. No, teach her how to deal with it.
Right.
See? Because they're very capable of dealing with the problem if they got the right information.
Yes.
Right? Just like you said, being at 10 o'clock. Does that child really need to be at 10 o'clock? No, you want that child in the house at 10 o'clock because that makes you feel good. You understand where that child is? Maybe she can be in at 10:30. Maybe he can be in at 10:30.
All right.
So that way they can finish whatever if it's a sports or whatever it is, give them enough. And if they cross them, then they need to understand there's a consequences for their action.
All right.
See? And if they know their boundaries, and this is important, this is why these principles are so important, because they keep you in your boundaries. It shows you how God disciplines you because it keeps you in your boundaries for success. The same way the child is looking for its boundaries. And if you set their boundaries and don't change them and they're sound, they'll know how far to go, but they'll come back. And so we have to learn to listen, to set the boundaries so they know that you trust them.
Yes.
Once they know they trust them, they'll keep your trust. See? But it has to be taught. It has to be taught.
Has to be taught.
Well, does it teaches us our boundaries.
Yes.
I guarantee you, it works.
Yes. That's good quiet time. We have to spend that quiet time together. And then Linda Wright Patrick, yes, spend quality time together. It is essential for a happy marriage. Great.
Amen.
Yes. Love Linda and Vito. They have a wonderful couples ministry, and
Yeah,
it is
they're sweet.
so together. I love them. They're
Yeah,
wonderful.
they are sweet. They're a beautiful couple.
Yes. Yeah. We have to listen. This has been great. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
I believe that, if others, well, in the lives of our young people, one thing I have taught is like associations. So what are those people that you have around you? And it can be parents that are negative. You have parents in your life that are just saying negative things to you. You're no good. You're just gonna be just like your dad or whatever. Those are negative people that can make those young men become negative, have low self-esteem. So it's very important the type of people that you have around you. However, I do think it's important for those young men that don't have any role models or mentors. They need to have someone to step up. We want the right types of people, the Christians, the ones that are following those principles,
Yeah.
the ones that are not just saying, but are doing. But, my theme for this month is breaking those chains, those obstacles that are holding our young men down, because our young men are smart. They are full of ideas. We talked about the social media. They are tech savvy, so there is so much they can do. They can be scientists, mathematicians, astronauts, lawyers, all these things. But we have to assist them because they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And they have to learn everything by experience, because there are so many people that should be around them that can help them, that have been through these things. So can you please give us some perspective and some helpful tips of the types, well, maybe not the types of people, but who can step up to help our young men and how they can get that help?
Preferably, we would love it to be the dads, but
Yeah.
But that's not true in even in a good home, because dads are always gone from the house working. Okay. That would be the number one thing that would change society, if we ever get the dads to understand that being at home with quality times with the young men will change them, and trust God to provide for your household. Okay. Because truly we don't understand that principle of trusting God. Just like that's why I told you this, the opening part of my story on you can do anything is possible through God, and doing broadcasts that cost millions and millions of dollars to do on a regular basis, God has provided that. Okay. So if we can teach the parents and the children to learn to trust God, to bring in when he tells you, I supply all your needs according to his riches and glory. But we have to learn to work the principle. And that has to be coming to the forefront, so that we can change this falling world. And as we do learn to trust God, pulled away by the world, to be trying to make more money, okay? Because we'll learn to manage our money. And when we learn to manage our money, that gives us freedom to be where we should be. And that influence comes in the first 5 years of a child's life. And if parents can understand that first 5 years of a child's life, devote yourself to that child. After that, the child starts getting into school and its peers and its friends, and it starts kind of pulling away. Then that gives you the opportunity to improve yourself, okay? And so we have to teach our young families, young men, to give everything those first 5 years to their children. Will change society. Then God will give you the opportunity to go and enhance where you want to go, okay? If I'd have learned that, it would have been a whole different thing. But because it's not taught, what do we do the first 5 years of our children? We're out doing everything we can to what? But that first 5 years, who's taking care of that child? Why? Because now you got two parents working. Who's taking care of the child? The daycare. So we have to get away from that daycare influence back to the family. And so that's the one thing, if we could ever teach the young men, especially as you teach young men, that first 5 years, and grew them now at teenagers to understand that's where you influence your society. That's where you make the biggest impact. And they can get prepared. See, this is where the preparation comes as young men, to learn the finances, learn the principles, learn how to get everything prepared for that day that we become husband and wife. Then they can devote themselves to the first 5 years to that child. And after that, then watch what happens. Because like I told Pastor Denise, when the grandbabies get old enough to have their friends, grandma and grandpa come third and fourth. No. Yeah. Now they're 16, 17. No. I don't have time today. I got this activity. I got this. And when that first started happening, she goes like, "Ooh, that's just part of life." So we have to learn to teach our children to prepare themselves for that coming of a family. And if we can do that, we can change the family itself, because then they can influence their children, which goes back to Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the ways of the Lord, and they'll not depart when they get old. But because it's not taught in the church, Dr. Smith, nobody thinks about it. There was a doctor friend of ours when we were having children. He says, I'm going to tell you this. He says, I have a beautiful business that takes care of our family. He said, but what I learned when I would always tell all situations at the hospital or whatever, my kids are first. Once they got old enough, then the hospital, whatever patients, then I was free to devote myself even greater to. He said, but I always learned to listen to them. He said, when you learn to listen to them, then they won't go looking for information somewhere else.
That's right.
That's what we got to be able to do, is to listen and teach them, because then they won't go looking for something else.
Yes. Awesome. You heard it. Now, I know some of you tuned in a little late, but you have to go back and listen to this entire broadcast. Dr. Ramos has really brought it today. This has been some information that we all need to hear. I mean, I just can't say enough. I mean, I love all the information that you have brought today. It has been so, eye-opening and everything. And it's what basic. It's just those principles. And I love it. And I get in my word each day, and I always make sure I go through those proverbs. And hey, it's awesome. Talk like kids do it, so hopefully they are doing it. But
Amen.
but it is just awesome. So
Yeah, amen.
can you please before you go tell our audience how they can reach you, how they can get on your broadcast or whatever? I don't
Sure.
know, Facebook page or
Yeah.
the information.
You can always go to our website, which is bafci.org, and that'll take you straight to our website. If you want to find us on Facebook, you go to KBAF radio page, and that way you can hit the like button or link to it, and it'll give you a notification on the broadcast. And we broadcast 6 days a week, from Sunday to Friday, from 9:06 in the morning to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And so you can watch us live through Facebook. Also, too, we simulcast on WOTGTV.com. You can go to that website and click on West Channel. At the same time, it's live. And then also, too, we just started broadcasting on Roku, and you can put in there what's the address, Pastor Denise? Roku. WOTG TV West. Type that in there, and it'll pull up the channel. And that is not a live broadcast, but that is a tape broadcast, and you can see it that way. So there's a multitude, and then we have the radio stations at kbafradio.com, and it plays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, gospel music, and then there's preaching. We come on live at 9:06 on that. So all different ways to get us, and we talk about everything. But the basics of everything that we do is we teach you these principles. Learn to read your Proverbs every day and bring wisdom and knowledge back. It will bring understanding of who you are in the kingdom of God.
Okay, and that website, that was BASIC.org.
BAFCI. It stands for Build a Foundation Church International. BAFCI.org. So. Did you find it?
Well, I was trying to put it up there. Is that right?
B is in boy, A is in apple, F is in Frank, C is in Charlie, and I is
yeah, forgot it.
Yeah. They can use .org or .com. It goes both ways. But so. Okay.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with Build Your Best Life. And here at Build Your Best Life, as I work with our young men to help them to overcome obstacles in order to build the best life, I work with basic principles in order to do that. So please visit my website at www.buildyourbestlife.org so you can read more about my website, read more about myself. You can read my blog that comes out every Monday, and my website, my web store is out there where you can get an autographed copy of the book, Build Your Best Life. It has the same basic principles. You get your autographed copy out there. It's www.buildyourbestlife.org. As well, you can get the book on Amazon.com.
Amen.
Yes. But yes, I just want to assist our young men in doing better. We have so many that are doing great things, but I know that there are so many more out there that can do the same thing. They don't have to be on the corner. They don't have to, be depressed. And our young men, suicide is the #2 cause of death in our young adults, males. So, I want to see all of that change. And so that's one of the reasons why I started this platform.
Amen.
To assist our young men. So we want to see them prosper.
I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show, and anything we can do to help you with these young men, you just let me know. We're here for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. And again, please share this video. This was wonderful. And as I always say, I don't want you to share just to share, but when there is valuable information that will help someone, and I know what Dr. Ramos imparted into us today will help many, please share this video. If you have any comments for myself or Dr. Ramos, you can put them in the chat, in the comments, and he will get those as well. And please like my page. I appreciate it. And make sure that you follow him on his broadcast. I will be listening. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And everybody, please enjoy your weekend and please stay safe. But remember this, as you travel on your road to being the best that you can, you will run into distractions, rough terrain, pitfalls, and detours. Don't let any of these negative aspects of your journey stop you. Though they may slow you down, keep going so that you can be the best you, so that you can build your best life. Thank you. Be blessed, and I love you.
Amen. Goodbye. Y'all have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.